Your greatest enemy is not outside you. It is the undisciplined mind within you. If your thoughts control you, anyone can. If your emotions dictate your actions, pressure owns you. Mastery begins internally. In this video, you will learn the Stoic discipline that builds mental sovereignty, the kind that makes you steady under pressure, resistant to manipulation, and difficult to destabilize. Nothing controls you more than your own mind. Not pressure, not criticism, not competition, not uncertainty, only your interpretation of them. If you cannot command your thoughts, you cannot command your life. Every external conflict is secondary. The primary conflict happens internally, in silence, before anyone else even knows it exists. Most people lose there. They lose before the meeting begins, before the negotiation starts, before the confrontation unfolds. They lose in anticipation. The mind imagines failure. It imagines humiliation. It imagines loss. And the body responds as if those events are already real. Heart rate increases, breathing tightens, clarity narrows. The battle has already started, and most never trained for it. Stoic discipline begins with one principle. The mind must obey reason, not impulse. Impulse is immediate. Reason is deliberate. Impulse reacts. Reason evaluates. When someone challenges you, what happens first? A surge, not logic, not analysis. A surge. That surge is not weakness, it is biology. But if biology dictates behavior, you are not sovereign. The Stoics understood this clearly. You do not control the first emotional signal. You control what follows. Between stimulus and response, there is a gap. That gap is your battlefield. If you collapse the gap, you react. If you expand the gap, you command. Most people shrink that space to zero. They speak immediately. They defend instantly. They assume motive without examination. Reaction feels powerful in the moment. It is not. Reaction is surrender to impulse. When your mind runs unchecked, it constructs narratives rapidly. He disrespected me. She is trying to undermine me. This will fail. I cannot handle this. These are not facts. They are interpretations. And interpretations trigger emotion. Emotion triggers action. Action determines outcome. Everything begins in thought. If you master thought, you influence everything downstream. If you neglect thought, everything downstream becomes unstable. Your mind must be trained to pause. Pause before labeling. Pause before concluding. Pause before responding. This pause is discipline. It feels unnatural at first because the untrained mind prefers speed. Speed feels decisive, but speed without clarity creates damage. The Stoic slows down internally while maintaining external composure. He hears criticism. Instead of reacting, he asks, "Is this true? Is there evidence? Is this useful?" These questions interrupt emotional escalation. Without interruption, emotion becomes momentum. Momentum overrides judgment. Judgment corrupted by emotion leads to regret. Regret weakens authority. Authority begins with self-control. Consider how many conflicts escalate unnecessarily. One sharp tone triggers another. One defensive comment triggers accusation. Within minutes, both parties operate from emotion, not reason. Neither is thinking clearly. Neither is commanding the battlefield. The Stoic does not aim to win arguments. He aims to remain in control of himself. Control of self is superior to control of others. If you control yourself, others lose the ability to destabilize you. If others can destabilize you, they control part of your state. This is vulnerability. Untouchable does not mean invincible. It means internally stable. You can be criticized and remain composed. You can be challenged and remain analytical. You can be pressured and remain deliberate. This is mental armor. Armor is not aggression. It is protection against impulsive collapse. The untrained mind seeks certainty. When faced with ambiguity, it invents negative outcomes. Ambiguity becomes threat. Threat triggers stress. Stress distorts thinking. Distorted thinking creates poor decisions. Poor decisions create real consequences, all because ambiguity was interpreted as danger. The Stoic reframes ambiguity as information. Unknown does not mean catastrophic. Unknown means incomplete data. Incomplete data requires patience. Patience requires discipline. This is battlefield training. Another dimension of the mind's battlefield is memory. Past failures replay repeatedly. Past embarrassments resurface. Past criticism echoes. If you allow memory to dictate present posture, you weaken yourself. The Stoic examines memory without identifying with it. Failure is an event. It is not identity. Embarrassment is a moment. It is not definition. If you merge identity with past mistakes, you carry invisible weight into every new situation. That weight affects posture. Tone changes. Confidence drops. Others sense hesitation. Hesitation invites pressure. All of it begins internally. Mastering your mind means refusing to let memory dictate current action. You extract lesson. You discard emotional residue. Lesson strengthens. Residue weakens. Most carry residue. Few extract lessons. The battlefield is also future-oriented. Anticipation of judgment destabilizes performance. Before speaking publicly, the mind imagines evaluation. What if they think I am wrong? What if I look incompetent? These projections are unverified, yet they trigger real anxiety. Anxiety narrows cognition. Narrow cognition reduces articulation. Reduced articulation confirms insecurity. Again, a cycle created internally. The Stoic trains anticipation differently. He focuses only on what he can control: preparation, clarity, delivery. Outcome remains external. When the mind shifts from outcome to effort, anxiety reduces. Attachment fuels fear. Detachment fuels stability. The battlefield is constant. Small moments test it daily. Traffic delays, unexpected criticism, delayed responses, shifting plans. Each moment invites emotional reaction. Each reaction trains a habit. If you react impulsively to small inconveniences, you condition yourself for instability in larger ones. Training is cumulative. Calm is cumulative. If you maintain composure in minor disruptions, you strengthen control for major challenges. This is daily discipline. You do not master your mind once. You train it continuously. The Stoic watches his thoughts. He does not believe every one of them. He examines them. Thought is a proposal, not a command. This distinction is critical. Most treat thoughts as instructions. I feel disrespected becomes I was disrespected. I feel anxious becomes this is dangerous. The Stoic separates feeling from fact. Feeling is internal. Fact is external. Confusing the two corrupts judgment. Mental mastery requires intellectual honesty. You must question your own narrative. You must challenge your assumptions. You must accept when emotion distorts perception. This is not weakness, it is strength. Strength is not rigid certainty. It is disciplined correction. If you cannot correct yourself internally, you cannot correct others externally. Untouchable individuals are not free from emotion. They are free from domination by it. Their mind is ordered. Order reduces chaos. Chaos invites manipulation. When someone attempts to provoke you and your mind remains steady, their attempt fails. They lose influence. Influence requires reaction. No reaction, no leverage. This is why the mind is the battlefield. If you lose there, you lose everywhere. If you win there, external conditions matter less. Control thought. Expand the gap between stimulus and response. Interrogate interpretation. Detach identity from emotion. Do this consistently, and you build internal sovereignty. Without sovereignty, nothing else matters. Events are neutral. Your interpretation is not. This distinction is where most people lose control. An event happens. A colleague disagrees with you. A client declines your proposal. Someone responds with a short message. A plan fails. The event is simple, but within seconds the mind adds meaning. He doesn't respect me. I am losing credibility. They are dismissing me. This is a disaster. Now emotion enters. Not because of the event, because of the interpretation. Stoic discipline requires separation, event, interpretation. Two different things. Most people fuse them instantly. They do not see the gap. The Stoic trains himself to see it clearly. A short email is not disrespect. It is a short email. A rejected proposal is not humiliation. It is a rejected proposal. A critical remark is not an attack on identity. It is a remark. The mind adds narrative automatically. The narrative determines emotional intensity. Emotional intensity influences behavior. Behavior shapes outcome. If you want to become untouchable, you must weaken the mind's tendency to dramatize. Dramatization magnifies pressure. Magnified pressure distorts judgment. Distorted judgment produces unstable action. Separate the raw data from the story. For example, event. Your performance needs improvement. Interpretation. They think I am incompetent. Those are not the same. One is feedback. The other is assumption. Assumption creates defensiveness. Defensiveness reduces clarity. Clarity is lost because identity feels threatened. Identity threat is one of the strongest emotional triggers. But identity is not the event. It is your attachment to it. The Stoic asks, what actually happened? Not what does it mean about me? What happened? That question reduces distortion. Most people do not suffer from events. They suffer from exaggerated conclusions. A delayed reply becomes rejection. A disagreement becomes betrayal. A mistake becomes permanent failure. These are mental constructions. And the body reacts to constructions as if they are real threats. Your heart rate does not distinguish between imagination and reality. It reacts to perceived danger. If interpretation is exaggerated, stress becomes constant. Chronic stress weakens decision-making. Decision-making weakens performance. Performance decline reinforces negative interpretation. A cycle begins. To break it, you must discipline perception. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means removing unnecessary meaning. If someone speaks sharply, note it. Do not add motive automatically. Perhaps they are stressed. Perhaps they are direct by nature. Perhaps they are careless. Motive must be verified, not assumed. Assumption invites miscalculation. Misinterpretation creates unnecessary conflict. Many relationships deteriorate because both sides react to interpretations, not facts. One assumes disrespect. The other assumes hostility. Both defend themselves against imagined threats. Few pause to ask, what was actually said? What was actually done? What is proven? The Stoic strips language down. If the mind says they are trying to undermine me, ask, what evidence confirms that? Often, the evidence is weak. It is tone. It is facial expression. It is inference. Inference is not proof. Without proof, restraint is required. Restraint preserves stability. Another example, you make an error in public. The event, a mistake. The interpretation, everyone thinks I am incompetent. This is projection. You are assuming universal judgment. Even if some judge, does that define you? No. The event is isolated. Interpretation makes it global. The Stoic refuses to globalize isolated events. One failure is not permanent failure. One criticism is not universal rejection. One loss is not total collapse. Language matters internally. Avoid absolutes. Always. Never. Everyone. No one. These words distort perception. Replace them with precision. This instance. This person. This moment. Precision stabilizes emotion. Imprecision inflates it. You must also separate event from memory. If someone challenges you today and you attach past humiliation to it, you amplify present intensity. You are not responding to the current moment. You are responding to accumulated narrative. This is why mental discipline requires constant clearing. Every situation deserves evaluation based on present facts, not past residue. The Stoic operates in the present. He uses the past for lesson, not emotional reinforcement. There is also anticipation. Before something even happens, the mind interprets potential outcomes negatively. I will fail. They will judge me. This will go badly. These are predictions, not facts. Prediction without evidence is imagination. Imagination treated as certainty creates anxiety. Anxiety affects posture. Posture affects performance. Performance influences outcome. You weaken yourself before the event occurs. Separate prediction from certainty. Instead of, "This will fail," say, "This may succeed or fail. I will prepare." Preparation replaces speculation. Speculation fuels fear. The Stoic trains objectivity. Objectivity is not coldness, it is accuracy. Accuracy reduces emotional volatility. When emotion reduces, clarity increases. Clarity improves response. Improved response increases control. Control strengthens confidence. Confidence reduces fear of future events. This is structural discipline. Becoming untouchable does not mean immune to criticism or failure. It means immune to distortion. Distortion is the real enemy. If someone criticizes you unfairly, that is their action. If you internalize it blindly, that is your error. Examine criticism, extract what is valid, discard what is not. No emotional collapse required. If someone praises you excessively, separate that too. Praise is interpretation. Do not inflate ego. Inflated ego creates fragility. Fragility invites stronger emotional reaction when challenged. Stability comes from even evaluation. Neither overvaluing praise nor overvaluing criticism. Both are external. Both are interpretations of others. Your role is to examine facts. Facts are manageable. Interpretations are infinite. The mind loves drama. Drama feels significant, but significance is not strength. Calm analysis is strength. Every time something happens, ask yourself, what are the facts? What is my interpretation? Is my interpretation necessary? This practice becomes habit. Habit becomes character. Character becomes armor. When you separate event from interpretation, fewer things destabilize you. You respond proportionally. Proportional response prevents escalation. Escalation is often driven by misinterpretation. Misinterpretation is optional. Training perception is daily work. Small events matter. Traffic delay, short message, minor disagreement. Each one is an opportunity. If you practice precision in small situations, you will maintain precision in large ones. Untouchable individuals are not free from events. They are free from exaggerated narratives about events. That is the difference. Control perception. Separate fact from story. Operate on reality. The rest is noise. Impulse is immediate. Action is permanent. Between them lies discipline. Most damage in life does not come from external pressure. It comes from undisciplined reaction. A message sent too quickly. A sentence spoken in anger. A decision made in fear. A commitment accepted under pressure. Impulse feels urgent. It demands expression. It insists that delay equals weakness. This is deception. Impulse is not strength. It is unfiltered emotion seeking release. The Stoic understands something critical. The first urge is rarely the best response. When provoked, the body prepares for action. Heart rate rises. Breathing shortens. Muscles tighten. This is natural. But acting at the peak of physiological arousal is rarely wise. Under impulse, perception narrows. You see threat, not nuance. You see attack, not context. You see urgency, not consequence. The disciplined mind delays action until clarity returns. Delay is power. Most people collapse the space between feeling and action. They feel anger and speak. They feel fear and withdraw. They feel insecurity and overcompensate. Reaction becomes identity. But identity built on reaction is unstable. If someone can predict your response by provoking emotion, they control you. Predictability under emotion equals vulnerability. To master impulse, you must train interruption. When you feel the surge, do not move immediately. Do not speak immediately. Do not decide immediately. Pause. This pause may be seconds, but those seconds change everything. In that space, ask, what will this action create? Not what will this action relieve? Impulse seeks relief. Discipline seeks outcome. Relief is short-term. Outcome is long-term. For example, you receive criticism publicly. Impulse, defend immediately. Relief, protect ego. Outcome, possible escalation, damaged credibility. Alternative, pause, listen fully, respond after evaluation. Relief is delayed. Outcome is improved. Impulse trades long-term strength for short-term emotional comfort. Discipline reverses the trade. Control of impulse is visible in posture. Those who react quickly often speak faster. Their tone sharpens. Their movements accelerate. Speed signals agitation. Agitation signals loss of control. Control signals authority. Slow movement, measured speech, deliberate gestures. These are external signs of internal mastery. Impulse also appears in decision-making. Under pressure, many choose immediate resolution over optimal resolution. They accept poor terms to end discomfort. They agree to things they do not support to avoid tension. They abandon strategy to escape uncertainty. This is not strength. It is avoidance. The Stoic endures temporary discomfort to preserve long-term alignment. He does not act simply to reduce tension. He acts to maintain principle. Impulse-driven decisions often create regret. Regret weakens confidence. Repeated regret weakens identity. Identity erosion leads to further impulsive action. A cycle begins. Breaking that cycle requires self-observation. You must know your triggers. Disrespect, delay, rejection, public challenge. Each person has specific triggers. Once identified, anticipate them. When you enter environments where triggers are likely, prepare mentally. If challenged, I will pause. If criticized, I will ask for clarity. If pressured, I will delay response. Preparation reduces impulse intensity. Unprepared minds react. Prepared minds respond. Impulse is strongest when identity feels threatened. If someone questions your competence, ego activates. If someone challenges your authority, pride activates. The stronger your attachment to identity, the stronger the impulse. Detachment reduces impulse strength. If your identity is stable internally, external challenge does not destabilize you as easily. Another common impulse is overcorrection. When feeling disrespected, some escalate unnecessarily. They attempt to dominate to restore status. This often backfires. Overcorrection reveals insecurity. True authority does not require performance. It requires consistency. Impulse thrives in emotional narratives. If you tell yourself, "They are humiliating me," impulse intensifies. If you tell yourself, "This is a disagreement," intensity lowers. Control of interpretation reduces impulse at its root. Breathing is a practical tool. When emotion rises, extend your exhale. Longer exhale signals safety to the nervous system. Safety reduces urgency. Reduced urgency improves thinking. Impulse also hides in digital communication. Messages are sent without pause. Tone is misinterpreted. Conflict escalates quickly. Discipline requires delay. Write the response. Wait. Reread without emotion. Then send. Many conflicts disappear in the waiting. Impulse would have amplified them. Control of impulse is not suppression. Suppression stores emotion. Stored emotion leaks later. Control means acknowledging emotion without obeying it. I feel anger, not I must act on anger. Feeling does not require expression. This distinction is freedom. Under impulse, people justify harmful behavior by claiming authenticity. I just say what I feel. This is not authenticity. It is lack of filtration. Authenticity without discipline is chaos. Strength is filtered expression. Filtered does not mean dishonest. It means intentional. The Stoic speaks intentionally, acts intentionally, decides intentionally. Impulse bypasses intention. Intention restores sovereignty. Consider negotiation. If the other party pressures you to respond immediately, impulse urges compliance or confrontation. Discipline chooses delay. I will review this and respond. That sentence protects leverage. Impulse often gives leverage away. Under emotional pressure, people reveal too much. They disclose insecurity. They accept unfavorable terms. They expose attachment. Controlled delay preserves advantage. Impulse also shows in daily habits. Overeating when stressed. Scrolling to escape discomfort. Interrupting others when impatient. Small impulsive habits weaken overall discipline. Discipline is cumulative. If you allow impulse in minor areas, resisting it in major ones becomes harder. Training begins small. Wait before speaking. Wait before responding. Wait before deciding. Impulse loses power when it is consistently denied immediate action. Over time, the surge weakens. The mind learns that emotion does not dictate behavior. This builds internal authority. Internal authority builds external respect. People sense when you are not easily provoked. They adjust behavior accordingly. If they cannot trigger reaction, their leverage decreases. Becoming untouchable requires emotional containment. Containment is not repression, it is structure. Emotion exists. It does not command. Impulse arises. It does not dictate. When you master impulse, you master momentum. When you master momentum, you master outcome probability. Reaction is predictable. Response is strategic. Choose strategy. Every time. Attachment creates vulnerability. The more you need a specific result, the easier it is to destabilize you. If you must win, you can be threatened. If you must be approved, you can be manipulated. If you must succeed publicly, you can be pressured. Dependence on outcome weakens position. Most anxiety is not caused by action. It is caused by imagined results. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if this goes badly? The mind projects consequences and reacts as if they are guaranteed, but outcomes are not fully yours. Effort is. Preparation is. Conduct is. Result is influenced by variables beyond you. If you anchor your stability to variables you do not control, you surrender stability. Stoic discipline shifts the metric. Instead of asking, "Will I succeed?" ask, "Will I act correctly?" Correct action is within your control. Outcome is not. When your standard becomes internal, anxiety decreases. Because internal standards are stable, external outcomes fluctuate. Consider negotiation. If you are attached to closing the deal at any cost, the other party senses it. Attachment leaks through tone, pacing, and concession. You become flexible where you should be firm, because you need the result. If you are prepared to walk away, posture changes. You speak slower. You concede less. You evaluate more. Detachment increases leverage. The same applies in relationships. If you need someone's approval to feel stable, you will tolerate behavior that lowers your standard. If you are internally anchored, you can disagree without fear. You can assert boundaries without panic. You can accept rejection without collapse. Attachment amplifies fear of loss. Fear of loss distorts judgment. Distorted judgment weakens authority. Detachment restores clarity. This does not mean indifference. You can pursue goals intensely without depending on them emotionally. Intensity and effort. Calm and outcome. This combination builds resilience. Many people avoid risk because they fear failure. They equate failure with identity. But failure is an event, not a definition. If identity depends on constant success, pressure becomes constant. If identity depends on disciplined effort, pressure decreases. Effort is repeatable. Outcome is variable. Anchor yourself to what is repeatable. The Stoic prepares thoroughly. He commits fully. But once action is taken, he releases attachment to the result. He does not replay endlessly. He does not obsess. He evaluates, adjusts, moves forward. Attachment also magnifies external judgment. If you care excessively about how you are perceived, every reaction from others becomes significant. A neutral expression feels negative. A short response feels dismissive. Silence feels like rejection. You interpret everything through the lens of desired validation. This creates constant emotional fluctuation. Detachment stabilizes perception. You do your work, you speak clearly, you act with principle. Others may approve or disapprove. Both are external. Neither defines you. When praise excites you excessively, criticism will wound you proportionally. Emotional neutrality protects balance. You accept positive feedback without inflation. You accept negative feedback without collapse. Both are data. Neither is identity. Another domain where attachment weakens strength is performance. Before public speaking, many fixate on outcome. Will they like it? Will I impress them? Will I make mistakes? This focus shifts attention outward. Outward focus reduces internal control. Internal focus strengthens execution. Instead of asking, "Will this go well?" ask, "Am I prepared?" Preparation is actionable. Outcome speculation is not. Anxiety reduces when focus returns to controllable variables. Attachment also fuels overreaction. If you desperately need a project to succeed, small obstacles feel catastrophic. If you are detached from the final result but committed to the process, obstacles become manageable adjustments. Process orientation builds durability. Outcome obsession builds fragility. Fragility reacts emotionally to disruption. Durability adapts. Detachment is often misunderstood as lack of ambition. It is the opposite. It allows ambition without psychological volatility. You aim high, but your stability does not rise and fall with results. This steadiness creates long-term advantage. In competition, those emotionally attached to winning often panic under pressure. They rush, they force, they overcommit. Those detached from outcome focus on execution. Execution improves probability. Probability increases success. Paradoxically, detachment improves performance because emotional noise decreases. Attachment also binds you to past results. If you succeeded previously and become attached to maintaining that image, fear of decline increases. You play defensively. You avoid risk. You protect reputation instead of building growth. Detachment frees you from defending identity. You can experiment, you can evolve, you can risk without identity collapse. When you remove emotional dependence on result, you remove leverage from others. If someone threatens your position and you are internally anchored, the threat weakens. If your stability depends on that position, fear intensifies. Fear creates concession. Concession weakens standing. This pattern appears in every domain: business, relationships, social dynamics, leadership. The more you need, the less you control. The less you need, the stronger you stand. Detachment does not eliminate disappointment. You may still prefer a certain outcome, but preference is not dependence. Dependence destabilizes. Preference does not. The Stoic says, "I will act well. Whatever follows, I will handle." This sentence eliminates fear of uncertainty. You cannot control what happens. You can control how you respond. If you trust your response capacity, outcome fear diminishes. Untouchable does not mean immune to loss. It means stable despite loss. If rejection does not break you, you are harder to manipulate. If failure does not define you, you are harder to intimidate. If outcome does not control your mood, you are harder to destabilize. Most pressure in life is outcome-based. Detach from outcome, anchor to principle, execute fully, release result, evaluate objectively, adjust calmly, repeat. This is discipline. This is freedom. If you avoid discomfort, you become fragile. Fragility is the opposite of untouchable. Most people only face discomfort when it is forced upon them. Criticism, loss, rejection, failure, uncertainty. Because they rarely choose discomfort, their tolerance remains low. Low tolerance amplifies pressure. Small challenges feel overwhelming. Minor setbacks feel catastrophic. The Stoic does not wait for hardship. He introduces it deliberately. Not extreme hardship, controlled hardship. Voluntary discomfort builds resilience before crisis arrives. When discomfort is chosen, it strengthens. When discomfort is forced, it shocks. The difference is preparation. Modern life reduces friction. Comfort is constant. Immediate entertainment, instant communication, controlled temperature, convenient consumption. When comfort becomes baseline, anything outside it feels threatening. This narrows capacity. Capacity determines stability. If your capacity for strain is low, pressure destabilizes you quickly. Training discomfort expands capacity. Start with physical discomfort, cold exposure, difficult workouts, fasting occasionally, not as punishment, as practice. When you step into cold water willingly, your body resists, your breathing tightens, your muscles contract. You want to escape, but you remain. You regulate breath. You maintain posture. You prove to yourself that discomfort is survivable. This rewires response. Later, when emotional pressure rises, the sensation feels familiar. The body says, stress, but you have been here before. You know how to regulate. Voluntary physical strain translates into psychological strength. The principle is simple. What you face intentionally loses its power to intimidate. Most anxiety comes from unfamiliarity. The unknown feels dangerous. Chosen discomfort reduces novelty. Reduced novelty reduces fear. The same applies socially. Initiating difficult conversations voluntarily strengthens composure. If you avoid confrontation entirely, the first unavoidable confrontation will overwhelm you. If you practice direct communication calmly, you build confidence. Confidence reduces escalation. For example, address minor issues early. Clarify misunderstandings quickly. Speak up when interrupted. Small corrections train assertiveness. Assertiveness reduces future disrespect. Voluntary discomfort also applies mentally. Engage with ideas that challenge your beliefs. Accept constructive criticism without defense. Review your own mistakes objectively. Many avoid internal discomfort. They protect ego. They rationalize error. They blame external factors. This protects self-image short-term. It weakens growth long-term. Growth requires discomfort. Discomfort strengthens identity. Identity built through honest correction is stable. Identity built through avoidance is fragile. Voluntary simplicity is another form of training. Reduce excess consumption periodically. Limit distractions. Spend time in silence. Silence reveals dependency. If you cannot sit alone without reaching for stimulation, your mind controls you. If you can tolerate stillness, you control your mind. Stillness strengthens clarity. Clarity strengthens response under pressure. Another dimension is delayed gratification. Refusing immediate reward strengthens discipline. Discipline in small areas compounds into larger strength. If you cannot delay small impulses, you will struggle to delay large ones. If you cannot endure minor inconvenience, major hardship will destabilize you. Training begins small. Wake up without negotiation. Finish task before entertainment. Respond to messages deliberately, not instantly. Each act strengthens control over impulse. Impulse control reinforces stability. Stability reinforces presence. Presence discourages disrespect. Voluntary discomfort also prepares you for loss. If you occasionally imagine losing comfort, job, status, approval, you reduce attachment. Reduced attachment reduces fear. Fear reduction increases composure. The Stoics practiced premeditation of adversity. They considered potential hardship in advance, not to dwell on it, to reduce shock. Shock destabilizes. Preparedness stabilizes. When something difficult happens unexpectedly, untrained minds panic. Trained minds assess. Assessment replaces chaos. Chaos invites error. Error compounds stress. Training discomfort improves assessment under pressure. You must also practice endurance without complaint. Complaint amplifies discomfort. It spreads negativity internally. It reinforces the idea that discomfort is injustice. But discomfort is part of reality. If you frame discomfort as unfair, you resist it emotionally. Resistance increases suffering. Acceptance reduces suffering. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means acknowledging reality without exaggeration. If you train yourself to endure inconvenience without verbal reaction, emotional tolerance increases. Tolerance increases resilience. Resilience reduces emotional volatility. Untouchable individuals are not those who never feel discomfort. They are those who do not collapse under it. Collapse often occurs because discomfort feels unfamiliar and intolerable. Make it familiar. Make it manageable. Controlled hardship also reveals weakness. When you challenge yourself voluntarily, you see your limits. Seeing limits allows improvement. Avoiding challenge hides weakness. Hidden weakness becomes exposed at the worst time. Exposure under pressure damages confidence. Exposure during training strengthens it. You choose the environment. You choose the intensity. You choose the pace. This builds control. Control builds internal authority. Another overlooked form of discomfort training is restraint. When provoked, remain silent intentionally. When insulted, Do not retaliate immediately. When pressured, do not respond instantly. Restraint feels uncomfortable. The ego wants expression, but each time you restrain effectively, discipline strengthens. Discipline reduces emotional reactivity. Reduced reactivity increases leverage. Leverage increases respect. Comfort addiction weakens sovereignty. If you require comfort to function, discomfort destabilizes you. If comfort is optional, you remain steady. Voluntary discomfort reduces dependency. Reduced dependency increases freedom. Freedom strengthens posture. Posture influences treatment. There is a direct connection between hardship tolerance and perceived authority. Those who appear physically and mentally resilient are tested less frequently because instability is less visible. You do not need to appear harsh. You need to appear grounded. Grounded individuals move slowly under stress. They speak evenly. They do not rush to escape discomfort. This signals strength. Training discomfort intentionally builds that signal. It is not about extreme suffering. It is about regular exposure to manageable strain. Small, repeated, controlled. Consistency matters more than intensity. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes baseline. Your threshold rises. Higher threshold reduces stress response. Lower stress response improves decision-making. Improved decision-making strengthens outcomes. Stronger outcomes reinforce confidence. Confidence built on endured discomfort is durable. It does not depend on constant success. It depends on proven resilience. When crisis eventually arrives, you are not surprised by strain. You have felt it before. You have regulated it before. You have endured it before. And because of that, you remain composed. That composure makes you harder to destabilize, harder to pressure, harder to intimidate. Train discomfort. Choose it. Control it. Grow from it. Untouchable is not built in comfort. It is built in controlled adversity. If someone else can control your emotional state, you are not sovereign. Emotional dependency is subtle. It hides behind attachment, behind loyalty, behind admiration, behind desire for recognition. But its effect is the same. If your stability depends on how others treat you, you are exposed. Untouchable begins with internal independence. You cannot be steady if your mood rises and falls with approval, praise, attention, or validation. Most people do not notice how dependent they are. A compliment improves their entire day. A cold response disturbs it. A delayed message creates doubt. A lack of acknowledgement triggers insecurity. This is emotional outsourcing. Your internal state is handed to external variables, and external variables are unstable. If someone praises you excessively and you need that praise, you become attached to maintaining their approval. You adjust behavior. You soften opinions. You avoid disagreement. You protect the source of validation. This weakens authenticity. If someone criticizes you and you depend on their perception, you defend excessively. You over-explain. You seek reassurance. You try to repair image rather than evaluate truth. Both reactions signal dependency. The Stoic removes emotional dependence by anchoring identity internally. Your character defines you, not applause, not criticism, not attention. Character is measured by conduct. Conduct is within your control. When identity is rooted in conduct, external reaction loses dominance. This does not mean ignoring feedback. It means filtering it. Extract what is useful, discard what is not. Without emotional turbulence. Another form of emotional dependency is relational. If you fear losing someone so strongly that you suppress boundaries, you weaken yourself. If you tolerate lowered standards to preserve connection, you reduce self-respect. Self-respect sacrificed for attachment creates imbalance. Imbalance leads to resentment. Resentment leaks through tone and posture. Eventually, instability surfaces anyway. Stronger relationships are built on mutual respect. Mutual respect requires independent identity. If you need someone emotionally to feel whole, you become vulnerable to manipulation. Manipulation does not always appear dramatic. It can be subtle, withdrawing warmth, withholding approval, Applying selective attention. If these tactics influence your behavior easily, dependency exists. Eliminating emotional dependency requires solitude, not isolation. Solitude. Time alone without distraction, without constant affirmation, without continuous input. If silence makes you uneasy, dependency exists. Dependency on noise, on validation, on distraction. Strength grows in quiet environments. In quiet, you confront your own thoughts. If you can remain steady there, you build independence. Emotional dependency also appears in status. If you require external recognition to feel significant, you become reactive to perception shifts. If you are promoted, confidence rises. If you are overlooked, confidence drops. This volatility weakens authority. Authority must be consistent. Consistent authority cannot depend on external validation. It depends on internal discipline. Detach identity from title. Detach worth from position. Position may change. Character should not. Dependency creates fear of loss. Fear of loss influences decision-making. You may compromise principles to preserve status. You may remain silent when correction is required. You may agree when disagreement is necessary. Fear-driven compliance weakens long-term strength. The Stoic values alignment over approval, alignment with reason, alignment with virtue, alignment with discipline. If others approve, acceptable. If others disapprove, acceptable. As long as alignment remains. This mindset removes leverage. When someone cannot threaten your self-worth through withdrawal, they lose influence. Influence requires emotional access. Reduce unnecessary access. This does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming centered. Centered individuals listen without absorbing everything. They care without clinging. They engage without depending. There is a difference between appreciation and need. Appreciation enhances life. Need controls it. If you appreciate praise but do not require it, you remain stable when it disappears. If you appreciate companionship but do not depend on it for identity, you remain stable when alone. Emotional independence also strengthens negotiation. If you need agreement to feel validated, you concede too quickly. If you are comfortable standing alone, you maintain position calmly. Standing alone requires internal reinforcement, daily reinforcement. Keep promises to yourself. Follow through on commitments. Maintain discipline when unseen. This builds self-trust. Self-trust reduces need for external reassurance. If you trust your judgment, you do not seek constant confirmation. You evaluate input without surrendering authority. Dependency often disguises itself as empathy. You may absorb others' emotional states excessively. If someone is upset, you feel destabilized. If someone disapproves, you feel diminished. Healthy empathy does not require emotional absorption. You can understand without merging. You can support without destabilizing. Emotional boundaries are as important as physical ones. If you allow others' moods to dictate yours, you lose consistency. Consistency builds respect. Volatility reduces it. To eliminate dependency, practice neutrality toward reaction. Post something publicly. Allow responses. Observe your reaction to praise and criticism. Train yourself to remain even. Respond thoughtfully. Avoid checking repeatedly for validation. Delay response to messages intentionally, not to create distance, to reduce urgency. Urgency often signals need. Reduce need. Increase control. Emotional dependency weakens under discipline. Discipline strengthens under awareness. Notice where your mood shifts based on external input. That is where work is required. Untouchable individuals are not isolated from emotion. They are anchored internally. If someone compliments them, they nod. If someone criticizes them, they assess. If someone withdraws attention, they remain steady. This steadiness changes dynamics. Others sense that emotional manipulation will not succeed. Respect increases when leverage decreases. Leverage decreases when dependency decreases. You cannot remove all human need. Connection matters. Recognition has value. But neither should define your state. If your peace depends on external consistency, You will rarely have peace. External conditions change constantly. Internal conditions can be trained. Train them. Anchor identity to principle. Anchor worth to conduct. Anchor confidence to preparation. Let praise pass. Let criticism pass. Let attention fluctuate. Remain stable. Stability is strength, and strength without dependency is difficult to shake. If your standards change under pressure, you are controllable. If your principles shift when challenged, you are negotiable. If your behavior depends on circumstance, you are unstable. Untouchable begins where internal standards become fixed, not rigid, not inflexible, but anchored. An internal standard is a line you do not cross, regardless of mood, pressure, or incentive. Most people operate with flexible standards. They are disciplined when observed, relaxed when alone, honest when convenient, compromising when pressured. This inconsistency weakens identity, and weak identity invites testing. When others sense that your principles adjust based on gain or fear, they push. When they sense immovability in core values, they hesitate. An unshakable internal standard starts with clarity. What do you refuse to do? What tone will you never adopt? What behavior will you not tolerate in yourself? What shortcuts will you not take? If these answers are vague, your standards are unstable. Vagueness invites negotiation. Clarity removes it. For example, you do not lie for advantage. You do not insult to dominate. You do not overreact publicly. You do not betray confidence. These are internal laws, not suggestions. When these laws are tested, you do not debate internally. You act according to them. Debating in the moment signals weakness in foundation. Strong foundations require fewer decisions. They operate automatically. An internal standard reduces cognitive load. When faced with a difficult choice, you ask, does this align with my principle? If yes, proceed. If no, decline. No emotional calculation required. This reduces stress. Stress often emerges from moral conflict. When you act against your own values, even for short-term gain, internal friction begins. Friction erodes confidence. Confidence erosion weakens posture. Weak posture invites pressure. Short-term compromise creates long-term instability. Many people chase outcomes at the expense of standards. They adjust ethics to secure position. They tolerate disrespect to preserve approval. They remain silent to avoid conflict. Each compromise chips at identity. Eventually, they feel fragmented. Fragmentation weakens presence. Presence built on integrity is solid. Presence built on convenience is fragile. An unshakable internal standard also governs reaction. You decide in advance. I will not raise my voice under provocation. I will not respond while emotional. I will not attack personally. When pressure hits, these rules activate. Preparation reduces volatility. Volatility destroys authority. Authority built on internal discipline requires repetition. You must keep promises to yourself consistently. If you say you will wake at a certain time, you do. If you commit to a task, you complete it. If you set a boundary, you enforce it. Broken self-promises weaken internal trust. Without self-trust, external confidence collapses under challenge. Self-trust is built privately, before anyone sees it publicly. Private discipline fuels public authority. If you cannot rely on yourself, others will not either. Standards also define response to success. Do not inflate ego after achievement. Do not relax discipline after recognition. Consistency prevents arrogance. Arrogance invites challenge. Stability discourages it. An unshakable standard includes how you treat others. Fairness without favoritism. Firmness without cruelty. Directness without humiliation. If you treat others unpredictably, you create instability around you. Instability invites resistance. Stable conduct earns respect. You also decide how you will handle failure. Will you blame? Will you rationalize? Or will you evaluate calmly and adjust? Predetermined response reduces chaos. When something goes wrong, you do not panic. You analyze. Because your standard requires it. Standards simplify emotion. Emotion often spikes because direction is unclear. If direction is predetermined, reaction is smoother. Another important dimension is silence. An internal standard may include refusing to gossip, refusing to complain excessively, refusing to engage in low-value arguments. Silence protects reputation. Reputation built on restraint commands weight. People trust those who do not speak impulsively. Trust increases authority. Authority reduces testing. Your internal standard should also include how you manage fear. Fear is natural, but behavior under fear reveals character. If fear dictates silence when truth is required, standard weakens. If fear dictates aggression when restraint is required, standard weakens. The Stoic principle is this: act according to reason, not emotion. Reason must define your baseline. Emotion fluctuates. Reason stabilizes. Untouchable individuals are not emotionless. They are principled. Principle creates predictability. Predictability builds reliability. Reliability builds reputation. Reputation shapes treatment. When others know you will respond calmly, they adjust tone. When others know you will not compromise easily, they adjust approach. Consistency teaches people how to engage with you. If your response changes based on mood, they experiment. Experimentation leads to boundary testing. Testing leads to friction. Eliminate variability in principle. Variability in strategy is acceptable, but not in core standards. To build an unshakable internal standard, document it mentally or physically. Define your code: short, clear, non-negotiable. Review it regularly, not for motivation, for reinforcement. Reinforcement strengthens identity. Identity stabilizes behavior. Behavior influences perception. Perception influences treatment. This is structural. Becoming untouchable is not about intimidation. It is about internal solidity. If you know who you are and what you stand for, external pressure loses impact. You may still face conflict. You may still encounter challenge, but you will not fracture. Fracture occurs when internal contradictions exist. Eliminate contradiction. Align thought, word, and action. When these three align consistently, you become difficult to destabilize because there is no internal weakness to exploit. An unshakable internal standard does not require announcement. It reveals itself through repetition. Over time, people recognize it. They understand the line, and most will not cross it because they know it will not move. That is strength. Not loud, not aggressive, stable. And stability under pressure is untouchable. Nothing in this world becomes manageable until your mind does. Not pressure, not conflict, not ambition, not adversity. If your thoughts are unstable, your life will be unstable. You now understand the structure. Separate events from interpretation. Control impulse before action. Detach from outcomes. Train discomfort. Eliminate emotional dependency. Build an internal standard that does not move. This is not motivation. It is architecture. Most people will not do this work. They will continue reacting. They will continue chasing validation. They will continue fearing outcomes. They will continue surrendering control to emotion. And they will wonder why life feels unpredictable. You do not need to control the world. You need to control your mind. Once that is stable, everything changes. Pressure becomes data. Criticism becomes feedback. Failure becomes instruction. Provocation becomes irrelevant. Untouchable does not mean untouchable physically. It means untouchable psychologically. No one can force you to react. No one can force you to collapse. No one can force you to abandon your standards. That is power. But it requires discipline, not once. Daily. From this point forward, observe yourself. Where do you react automatically? Where do you attach emotionally? Where do you surrender control? Correct it, quietly, consistently. If you are serious about mastering your mind, commit publicly. Write in the comments, "I control my mind." Not for inspiration, for accountability. Then subscribe, not for entertainment, for reinforcement. Because discipline fades without repetition, and the mind, if left untrained, will return to chaos. Master it, or it will master you.